And also letting everyone know that right now you're in the session titled "Be the Change You Want to Eat: Food Systems Change." Um, in our last session, we actually ran out of time for audience Q&A, so I think I'll just get started very quickly and introduce our first speaker in 1 second. All right, awesome. All right. So here with us today is Hawa Lasana. Did I pronounce your name right? All right, awesome.
Yep, that's great.
Great, thank you for being here. I'm just going to introduce you briefly. Hawa's life mission has been to gain a wide breadth of education, knowledge, and experience about the world and its innovations in order to share it with her community. As the founder of an umbrella organization comprised of a value-added food brand, Deca City Provisions, a community farming initiative, backyard farming co-op, and urban farm operations, Deca City Farms, her intention is to create inclusive structures to help enable her peers and fellow citizens look into the lives of leadership and to facilitate agency of their own possibilities, encouraging overall wellness for the individual, as well as sustainable communities focusing on food justice and environmental stewardship. Thank you so much for being here. I am going to go ahead and pass the mic to you to talk about the work that you do.
Great. Thank you so much. And that was a great introduction. It really makes me laugh just to think about like a lot of people say I'm doing too much. And when you put it all like that, it just sounds like so much, but it's really a joy and a pleasure. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and oh, maybe not.
We ran into this problem last time where the breakout rooms don't have a function for screen sharing for other
That's okay.
participants.
Mhm.
If you share your presentation with me, I can share my screen, or if you just want to read aloud, that's totally fine too.
Well, I mostly just have photos that I wanted to share, but maybe you can tell me quickly how I share it with you, and if that's easy, then we can do it real quick.
Yeah, if you could just email the pictures to me, I can bring them up on my screen and share with everybody.
Okay, let's get in there and do that real quick. All right. Let's see. Just one more second. Okay, that is sent. I think we'll just make you an editor, see if that works. Okay, so let's see. Oh, yes, awesome. And I'll just cue next slide when it is appropriate. But before that, let me bring up my notes. Okay. All right. So you can go ahead and next slide. And we can actually do that twice. Next one there. I'll go a little faster since we're running a little behind. But so my name is Hawa Lasana, and I am the founder of Discerning Eye Community Agriculture. We're a Lancaster-based hybrid social enterprise, a 501(c)(3), which is a nonprofit, whose mission is to engage communities towards wellness and abundance, employing a holistic framework centered on urban farming. So again, as I mentioned before, like we do a lot, and I think the impetus behind that is because taking a look at sort of the local food systems, we were able to identify a whole lot of holes and a whole lot of spaces where improvements could be made. So this is why our mission takes up a whole page. But I'll continue on and say that DECA fosters agency and inclusion in the fresh food industry, which is really important to me personally. And we also extend our mission to support individuals and small organizations whose mission aligns with ours. And I'll be able to dive deeper into those two things here shortly. And you can go to the next slide, please. And so our main framework centered is centered around the six dimensions of wellness created by the National Wellness Institute. And those include emotional, occupational, physical wellness, social wellness, intellectual wellness, and spiritual wellness. And again, trying to figure out a system that can uh, re reimagine the way the local food web works in a way that supports communities in literally every way that a person could be supported is our goal. So, that's a lot of work for just one person. So we're able to, spread that out amongst a whole group of folks. Sorry, next slide, please. And I'll go through these sort of quickly. One more, please. So just a little context on what we've done in our city, Lancaster City in Lancaster County, PA. We've created a community garden at the Genesee Stork Corridor Park that is attached to a Boys and Girls Club where I was the director for about a year and a half. We transformed a sunflower garden into a full food garden. And next slide, please. It was a really interesting work because a lot of the kids really had never even dug in the dirt before. These, teen boys here, as you see pictured, would find worms and insects and say, "Ew, miss, look at that!" And I'd say, "Put it in your hand, like experience it, interact with it." And they were they were hesitant to say the least. So that sort of acknowledging where the community was at this time was really important to figure out how we move forward. And through the Boys and Girls Club, we were able to create an outdoor program where we bust kids out to a local Lancaster Conservancy area called Tuckwan Glen and got them to go hike 20 minutes away from where they lived. And it was a hugely formative experience for them. Next slide, please. All right, there's some signage from the garden. Not only was it a garden for the Boys and Girls Club, but it also became really integral for the community. One more slide, please. You can see we're sort of at the end of a park here, so right next to a walkway. So that invited so many folks to interact with us when we were working. Um, you know, it's a pretty heavily traveled route, so to be able to take something when they need it, take some tomatoes on their way home was just it was a really great experience. Next slide, please. The next project we did was a local CSA. This was sort of at the height of COVID. Next slide, please. And we don't have to play it, but we can just see it. Well, oh, it'll play. Wonderful. So at this time, watching food get wasted and trying to figure out how to get to the places where food was really challenging for a lot of people. So the Lancaster local CSA, we created a bicycle delivery. Next slide, please. Bicycle delivery program within the city that would drop bags of groceries off to folks who signed up, and it was very affordable. You could sign up for the whole season or just one bag when you had the funds. And that was a really important sort of aspect for many of the clients that we had during that time who didn't really have the funds to sign up for a season long commitment. Next slide, please. And just tell me if I need to like quit it as far as time goes, Renica, please. This is our flagship garden, Deca City Farms. This is the 40 by 40 space that I actually won the Assets Great Social Enterprise pitch in 2021. And the next day, we had about 20, 25 volunteers out to build the whole garden. And it was a really fun experience. You can go to the next slide there. We won't watch the whole thing, but you can just get a sense in of the first few seconds of where we started and how it continued on. But yeah, it was really fun. We had donated pallets and lots of donated materials, obviously donated labor, and people of all ages out there helping us to make it happen. Next slide, please. Yes. And since then, it's really been a place of collaboration, learning, joy, experimentation, partnership, and peace. And I'll just speak on that really quickly, just from hearing some of the other presenters and other folks here on the call talk. Um, how do we get volunteers? How do we get people out? And just a practical note, we use an app called Calendly, and we attach that to all of our social media and our website. And Calendly is a place where folks can just sign up when it fits their schedule. So if you know that you're going to have, next Friday afternoon off and my schedule links up or whatnot, it's an available day or time, they can just sign up. I'll get a notification. I'll, continue communication with them, let them know what to expect, what to bring. And once they've done it once, I've gotten sort of the lay of the land, they can sign up at any time. I don't have to be there and they can just go on their own. But it does help me keep track of volunteer hours, the volunteer, coalition of folks, as well as, just sort of knowing who's there and what's going on at the time, and giving them jobs to do at the same time. Without me having to be there, which is really huge because we do a lot. Next slide, please. I don't know why that, okay, cool. The next project we did was a pay what you can farmers market. And next slide. That was so fun. We actually used a historic market building space once a sort of staple neighborhood grocery closed. That neighborhood no longer had access to fresh food. So we were really in the right place at the right time with the right people who supported us and allowed us to thrive. Go ahead, next slide, please. So just some photos of the market and the market space. I mean, it is not pretty. It was functional, but we made it happen. Next slide, please. And what we were doing is really bringing people to the table, as we said. So we used like plates from Salvation Army and really tried to make it as comfortable and accessible as possible. And again, the pay what you can situation really worked out well. One, for us for fundraising, and two, we also won some pro bono work from lawyers and accountants through the social enterprise pitch. And even the lawyers and the accountants were like, pay what you can. It's never going to work. People are going to take advantage of it. That did not happen once. And there was one time when one older woman was coming in, getting lots and lots of stuff. And I really was worried. I was like, should I say something? I really felt really conflicted. And literally, I said, no, like, this is what we're doing. This is what we're meant to do. We're not going to say anything to her. And the next market week, she came in and gave us a $20 bill and was just like, thank you so much for allowing me to get what I needed when I needed it. Here's money for you. And so that just really sealed the deal for me and for my conviction to keep doing this and do it better. Next slide, please. Tell me if I'm running late or if I have a time frame, let me know. I have about probably like 10 more slides, but we can go quickly. So here is the next space. Deca City Farms, our experimental space, and we started this from scratch. Next slide, please. We got chicken coops. So this is out basically in a a, a um, a neighborhood called Sunnyside in Lancaster, which has been historically underserved. Um, this neighborhood just outside of the city only got municipal water in like 1980. So you can imagine, what this place has been through, what the community there, sort of how they feel about being included or not included in the growth of Lancaster. So, and it's also on a floodplain. So where we are right there, just earlier this year was under 4 or 5 feet of water. So we had to think differently about the way we were going to do it, but the space was available to us. So we said we're up for the challenge. So yeah, in that space, we're talking about how we can grow on non-arable land and continue to talk about alternative farming techniques. Next slide, please. And so with all of that, one of the most and the best impacts or developments of the past year has been adding to the team of discerning eye community agriculture, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. So as you can see, we do a lot. There is the main nonprofit, Discerning Eye Community Agriculture, and then we have 3 companies underneath. Backyard Farming Cooperative, which has been renamed to Deca City Community. Then we have Deca City Provisions, which is our food brand, and Deca City Farms, which organizes and runs our farming and environmental initiatives. So to be able to divvy up the needs and the requirements and the duties has been really helpful to me, of course, as the founder, but also to the community who want to be involved and want to take ownership in ways that work for them, and where their passions lie. Next slide. So some of the products that we make out of what we get or buy or grow, we have infused honeys. We also grow mushrooms in those. Some of you may have been in the previous breakout room that I was in with community gardens. And in the grow tents, we also grow mushrooms and freeze dry them so that, the harvest is extended, if you will. We also freeze dry other products like tomatoes and herbs and, basically anything that can be freeze dried, we're going to do it in an effort to show sustainability for gardens, not only through what we're growing, but how we can offer it to the community, and it can continue to be of use to the community months, days, weeks, years after the initial harvest. Next slide, please. We also, in our companies, foster, as I said in our mission, the growth of other small organizations. This organization on the right is called Turn Up for Love, and we support them by helping to facilitate community meals. Uh, we are all sort of looking for a kitchen at the same time and have many of the same goals. So we collaborated with a local, who is my best friend and local restaurateur, Rachel Adams at Rachel's Creperie. And so we're able to use her kitchen and her equipment when she's not in open, and also host community meals in her space. So that's just been a really wonderful experience and great to continue to coalesce the community around this sort of larger movement that we're creating. Next slide, please. I'll go through these quick. These are photos from our back to school events. We did one at Hamilton Elementary where we demonstrated our freeze dried items and also fruit shrubs that we made, which are fruit syrups with vinegar and really good for bellies. We know that the belly is the second brain, and for young kids in school who want some healthy, they don't want healthy stuff, but the parents want healthy stuff. We offer this as an option for them to try. Next slide, please. This was a resource fair at Rodney Park in Lancaster City. Definitely an underserved community historically, but um, there's so much energy about turning the tides for people who live in urban areas. So we were able to participate in this resource fair, showing people how to make fermented hot sauces, which you can see in the left picture down at the bottom, out of all the peppers and tomatoes and other colorful vegetables. You can only see one there, I think, but there's a green one, an orange one, and a red one. And people were really drawn to the artistic, vibrant nature of the food that we were creating. And so that just really drew them to the table. It was really fun. Next slide. Um, Lastly, we are also within the programming of DECA also hold highly creativity and art. Discerning I used to be an art organization until we transferred or transmuted into a food and community organization. So next slide, please. Within the program, which is called From Roots to Leaves or Fertile, we are building murals and involving communities, having community meals, and sort of basically bringing together everything that we are into a community to help coalesce and fortify them, educate them about nature, about food, and all the options that are available. Next slide, please. And then we come out with wonderful, wonderful products, a wonderful statement for a community that they can really take ownership of. And it is sort of a representation of the commitment and the legacy that they are creating for their community. And I feel really strongly and it just about that, and it makes me feel so warm inside. So next slide, please. Our next event is October 27th. It is a harvest festival. And we'll have, of course, food, games, music, and stuff, but mostly we'll be demonstrating or unveiling our mobile market stand. Next slide, please. This is just an image of where we're going and what the future would look like. And of course, AI has been helpful in creating that imagery. But where we're going with the mobile market is to create a solar powered kitchen trailer that is pulled by a solar powered vehicle so that our energy and overhead costs can be as low as possible so that the funds that we're able to gain through our work can go directly to communities. Next slide, please. And that's the end of the presentation. Thank you all for your time. Thank you for the extra time. And if you have any questions, I'm sure I'll be in the Q&A. Thanks.
Thank you, Hawa. I'm just wanted to say I grew up in E-Town, so I'm from the area, and so it's always exciting to me to hear about like what's going on back home because I'm in Pittsburgh now. So yeah, that's super awesome. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing about the work that you're doing. I am gonna go ahead now and introduce. Oh, all my tabs went away. I'm gonna go ahead now, in just a second and introduce Susanna. Do you also have a presentation for me to share from my screen?
Yes, I sent you an email.
Oh, awesome. Thank
There
you.
should be some slides.
Just bear with me while I go ahead to pull it up.
I could drop a link in the chat too, if that's helpful.
Oh, it just came through. Awesome. All right. So yeah, Thank you. I'm just going to go ahead and also introduce Susanna Hartzell, who leads Philly Food Rescue, Share Food Programs App Powered Food Recovery Project. Susanna and her team mobilize volunteers to fight food waste, increasing access to fresh food across Greater Philadelphia. Centering food justice and sustainability, Philly Food Rescue recovers 1.5 million pounds of surplus food each month, equipping more than 300 neighborhood organizations working to keep Philly well fed. Thank you so much for being here to share with us, Susanna. I will go ahead and just share my screen so that we can get your slideshow going.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here with folks from across the state. Yeah, I'm part of Philly Food Rescue. We are a sister organization of 412 Food Rescue out in Pittsburgh. If folks are familiar with that organization, we license their technology, like they developed our app, and our app is, very similar to what they're doing out there. You can click ahead. Here's a little picture of our team. We're a small and mighty team. And actually, Serena has left, so we're just a team of 3 at this point. But we're mostly doing what we're doing with a network of like really faithful volunteers. We can click ahead. We have been doing food recovery in Philadelphia since 2018. And then 3 years ago in 2021, we were acquired by the food bank. And so Share is an independent food bank in Philadelphia, and that has enabled us to scale the work that we were already doing. Share has warehouses and trucks, and that enabled us to recover not just the food that we're picking up from like restaurants and grocery stores, but we can also receive trucks or, pick up palletized food. We are recovering about 10 or more pallets of fresh fruits and vegetables 5 days a week, which is pretty great because then that enables us, to also service all kinds of partners at all kinds of different scales. But here's a little background on Share. Share, before we joined Share, they mostly focused on different government programs like Senior Food Box and National School Lunch Program and these different pantry programs. And then we are specifically donations based, and everything that we are doing is all solely food recovery. And it's food that would otherwise be going into the landfills, into the waste stream. And we are working to divert it and make sure it can get rerouted to these network of neighborhood organizations that are serving folks across our neighborhoods. We can skip ahead. We are mostly collaborating with organizations, many of whom are not primarily doing food access. Like they're focused on medicine or education or housing. And we've just sort of found that if we can route food to the places that people already are, it saves so much time, and that people don't have to maybe wait in a line at a pantry. And we can maybe catch the kinds of visitors that aren't going to pantries anyway, whether that's undocumented people or working people. So like a lot of our partners are, mutual aid groups and, affordable housing communities and things like that. Our volunteers are in the field 7 days a week, working to keep wholesome food out of the waste stream. We can skip ahead. Our mission is fourfold. We, are working to increase access to fresh food, routing food to where the folks already are living and receiving services. So if people can get groceries from their daycare pickup, like that makes it so much simpler for folks. We're looking to end food waste, keep good food within our communities where it belongs. We are resourcing our partners and trusting that they are experts on what they need. Food recovery is an imperfect solution to hunger. Like those are really 2 different problems with pretty like different solutions. And everybody deserves firsts. So like the idea of just sort of sending leftovers to like low income and vulnerable people is like not an ideal marriage. So I mean, one of the ways that we do focus on food sovereignty is like, if it's not a good match for folks, we're like, that's great. We'll find you something different. We'll find you something better. Like we want to like listen to folks and try to hear what they're looking for their community and help match them with an appropriate donation or like the right kinds of food. And if it's not a good fit, we're like, we understand. We're never going to be like, well, if you guys have needs, here's what we have. So you should just be thankful. Like that's like not what it's about at all. Like we're just sort of looking to keep wholesome food out of the waste stream. And if it's not a good fit for a particular partner, like we totally understand and we'll try to make referrals for something that's more appropriate. And we're looking to just build nutrition security, centering dignity, agency, and access. We can skip ahead. We're rescuing food from the retail side of businesses, restaurants and grocery stores, caterers. On the palletized side, we're recovering food, from just distributors and wholesalers. And then we also have a little quarter-acre farm in North Philadelphia that is growing this time of year. We've got persimmons that are coming online, and we've got all kinds of greens, and so we're also getting food right from our little farm. We can skip ahead. Oh, that's just QR codes to our app. We can skip ahead. I think that's about it. Food recovery is about strengthening local food access. We're recovering about 500,000 pounds of food every month, which is kind of exciting because that's food that what might otherwise be in the waste stream, causing emissions and everything like that. And that way we're able to keep it like, where people are. We've worked really strongly with like a lot of community fridges across Philadelphia, and we just started our own one, which we're excited about because that means that we are also a 24/7 food hub that people can like help themselves and just access food, from our community. But I'll end there and hopefully there's like a little time for folks to ask some questions.
All right, thank you so much. And yes, there is in fact time for folks to ask questions. I actually know about Philly or 412 Food Rescue partner because I used to work at a cafe that we always donated to 412 at the end of each week. So it's awesome to hear that you guys are partnered up. Yeah, so thank you both for being here and for spending your time with us and sharing your knowledge with us today. I think we do have until 4:30, so we've got plenty of time for Q&A and for discussion. I'm going to open the floor up to any questions that any of our audience might have.
Renica, I have one. Both for Susanna and Hawa, are there policies either at the state level or at your local community level that would make your work easier or easier to support? What kind of changes do we need to make this go better?
Well, I can start off there, but I definitely don't want to take like how much time we got. So I will say though, we were lucky to be on the Urban Ag tour done by the Secretary Russell Redding and uh, Department of Ag State, uh, and it was really wonderful for them to come to our locations for the second time. Actually, they also came out in 2021 to be able to hear from us directly, like what kinds of changes need to happen and where can we be helpful, and what kinds of, here's a date for a grant that's coming out. But more specifically, I'd say the biggest problem that we've run into is zoning. We have some pretty big plans for that one location, and zoning stormwater issues on how to build and make use of land that has been previously unusable has been a pretty big challenge for us. But other than that, working with food, health, and safety, a lot of the initiatives that we're working on are unprecedented. And so they have been really quite open to, here are the rules for what we have done so far, but you're the first one doing a mobile market. So, you know, just make sure you follow these things and we trust that you'll do the rest well. So they've given us a lot of leeway and a lot of trust, but I think that has been through years of showing and proving that we're here to do what what we're doing well, which is create wellness in communities, create increased food access, nutritional wellness, and really just uplift communities all around.
So that's the at the city level.
Yes,
Lancaster is being
yes.
permissible. They're letting you do stuff.
Yeah, yep. They're giving us a lot of leeway, and I think that is a function of the small town that we're in. I'm not sure if the Philly folks would have as easy as a time trying to navigate those same issues.
Well, and I am not an expert on the policy side, so I can't speak, too much about it. But I know, like in California, there's different laws that have been passed to sort of punish businesses for throwing food away, and that's like one way of doing it. But there's also ways that you can incentivize food recovery through like tax credits or like you can also sort of like woo people into it. I mean, there's not a lot of money in food recovery, and I think that that is a role that like both business and government can play to try to like free up monies to do this kind of thing. Whether that's money for staffing or for infrastructure, things like that. And then on the policy side, I think one of the biggest things, like just not really related to food recovery, but related to just people having access to what they need is, like when like we had like much more robust SNAP benefits and different like COVID benefits that have expired in like the last year and a half. And there are more people that are hungry and facing food insecurity now than ever, and like we know how to how to take care of people. It's just not popular. But yeah, last, March a year ago is when people's SNAP benefits, like the extra SNAP benefits expired. And suddenly like all of our partners, just reported like longer lines, like more phone calls, like, my phone rings off the hook, like, like that farm bill and just SNAP benefits and like those kinds of things, like give people more access to be able to buy what they need. And that's also good for local business too. Like that's money being spent at the grocery stores, and where people can, purchase the kinds of foods that are appropriate to their diets and their allergies and their cultures.
I'll add, I don't know whose shoulders this would fall on, but I would also just love to see some sort of systemic um, um, directory, if you will, of folks and community organizations that are not just regionally or not just like within my city, but within the greater region. Because I don't know if this particular example would work, but we could definitely benefit from a pallet or two of something coming from your organization, Susanna. And so being able to connect with create opportunities to connect with other organizations that are doing similar things, I think would be a super helpful way to sort of systematically change the way we deal with food, hunger, and, nutritional deficiencies within our communities. Do we have any other questions?
I don't want to dominate the conversation, but
Well,
I'm
bring it
curious
on,
about
William.
the I'm curious about the issue of people's expectations about food. It seems like you go into the marketplace, and if a peach or a tomato isn't perfect, you pass it by, even though it may still have, plenty good nutritional value. So, Susanna, for example, do you find you get stuff that is perfectly good, but it maybe it is blemished a little bit, or it's, you know, at one day beyond the sale date, or something that makes it so that the market can't sell it, but it's still perfectly good food for you to distribute?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and actually, and that makes me think too about something the government can also do a better job of like explaining date labels. Like right now, there's not really any kind of like universal understanding of like food safety dating. And that causes a lot of food waste. Because the stores have like Best Buy or Sell By or, you know, whatever these dates are. And then people are worried that once that date passes, that like they're going to get sick or like that is no good or it's spoiled. And a lot of the dating is pretty arbitrary. Like it's about like just refreshing inventory and things like that. So we try to do a lot of education on food date labeling. But yeah, a lot of things end up in the donation stream that are still perfectly good. You know, and maybe it's the dating or maybe something's like a little bit blemished. But also it's like, yeah, I think you're right that the people expect perfection. And then when things aren't perfect, they get thrown away. And so, you know, we kind of swoop in to make sure that doesn't happen. But yeah, there is a lot of waste just because of like the capitalism, like expectation things should be beautiful and perfect and pristine.
Ugh, isn't that the case? But I will add and share as sort of I don't know, a method that we've been using and that I spoke about briefly during the slideshow was freeze drying or lyophilization. That takes dehydration to the next level where we are now, you know, creating tomato powders, peach powders, green powders, you know, basically anything that you can think of, and not just in powder form, sometimes just like chopped and whatnot. So, you know, that is our version, our way of taking, you know, ugly fruits or fruits that are a couple days past, you know, what would look good on the shelf, and being able to still offer that, you know, creating an income stream out of our waste stream by turning that food into, you know, a non-visually represented nutrition, you know, whatever. I'm just being funny, but yeah, it is. It's been really helpful to, particularly for our organization that is still small, although we have team members, it's still me doing a lot of the work. So, yes, processing and creativity is exactly it. That's exactly right. So, yes, you know, if I get again a couple of cases of food and I'm not able to handle it right away, it can go in the freezer and then I can freeze dry it and I can present it as product later. So it's been really helpful and something that has been also sort of an educational aspect of what we're doing too, to be able to let people know here is another option to get what you need that you may not have seen before, and it may look weird and it sort of is weird in your mouth. We did freeze dried banana chips at the back to school event and kids were like, oh, I don't know about that, but then they tasted it and it was super sweet and super banana, like banana candy but better, and you know they loved it. So it's a really just an educational aspect again, like Susanna said, of you know, getting people to understand what food that is no longer pretty can still do to help them.
Renica Damon has
Mhm.
his or her hand up.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll also say that I think we're about to move into a 15-minute break. Um, and we may get that message soon from the main room.
This is Sue. I don't have a question. I just wanted to tell you I'm really impressed with the creativity and the energy and the ways that you're getting things right to people where they are and getting them involved and the educational components. It's all very inspiring, hopeful, impressive. Thanks for everything you're doing.
Thanks so
I think it,
much.
yeah, I wouldn't want to speak for you, Susanna, but I could say at least I think it's a pleasure for us both to be doing what we're doing because it is a lot of work. It's a lot of stress. And you know, somebody mentioned in another talk, doing community gardens and all this stuff, it's a full-time job, or it can be. So I think it is, sort of to bring it back for me, it is 100% like where I'm spiritually drawn to, and I am compelled to do this. Even I can't imagine life not doing this. So I'm just trying to figure out how to manage and balance and like make it a little bit easier, but I'm gonna be doing it.
Yeah, and I'll say for me, it's just so encouraging being a part of this network of folks that are on the ground that are doing all kinds of different they're doing all kinds of different work, and they're motivated by all kinds of different things. We've got like elders and activists and church folks, and it's just really heartening, I think, to be connected to folks that are invested in being good neighbors. Like, so you sometimes open the newspaper and like the news is so bad, like there's just so much heaviness. And, folks are working so hard to make sure that like their neighbors have what they need. And yeah, there's good around every corner.
I'll echo what was just said. Thank you so much, both of you, for the work you're doing and the work your organizations are doing. It's great.
Does anyone, let's see, what can we talk about for these last few minutes? I think like one of the things, I guess one of the challenges that we also run into has been, so I am the primary grant writer, and this is also a challenge because okay, so if we're talking about what the government can do, we are mostly going for government grants, not so much private grants, just because the structure seems to work and finding out where they are and the timing seems to work. But they all are released and due around the same day. I don't know if anybody else here on the panel has ever written grants, but it seems like it's formulated for a team to be able to tackle. And a lot of the organizations like mine, like Suzanne, actually, I can't speak, sorry, Suzanne, I don't know how large your organization is, but a lot of organizations that are doing this type of work um, are just a few folks who are, already previously engaged with a whole life's work of activities to do. So, finding the time and the space and the energy to also fundraise is challenging. But it's fun to be able to collaborate on the grants through and in between organizations so that um, number one, grantors seem to like collaborative projects more anyway. But to be able to use those skills to sort of benefit a collaborative of people has been really, really fun, and sort of keeps me engaged in that space. So should we head over to the main room?
Is there a
Yeah,
break? Is there a
just
break
about to
before the
say. So
keynote?
yeah, there's a break before the keynote at 4:45 p.m. So if you'd like, you can head back to the main room. Um, all the breakout rooms will close at 4:40. But I mean, before we head back, just want to say thank you, Hawa and Susanna, for both being here. It was wonderful to hear about the work that you do. So thank you for sharing your time with us. And again, thank you to everybody who just chose to share their time with us today in general to convene with us. We've had some really wonderful discussions today, and this has been, like somebody said in the chat, just a uniting afternoon. So thank you all.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you all. Seconded.